I mean, I think the number is a million creators on OnlyFans now. Most of them young women doing pornography or pornographic adjacent stuff, right? Nudes or pornographic adjacent stuff. And so, I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of girls, right?
Yeah.
And you were that girl, right? And I know we're going to get to like your incredible transformation, but I am so curious if there is, what do you think's driving that? And then what are the things that people who love those people, right? Maybe they know someone caught up in that.
Yeah.
What can they do or say? Like, what would have helped you for someone to do or someone to say that you think might have woken you up from the really deep slumber you were in, morally speaking and just humanly speaking,
right?
To have you so, deeply embedded in that world.
Well, we live in a generation now, and it's becoming more and more prominent that, women are bosses, right? I hear that all the time. You don't need a man, you're a boss, and it's just, I feel like during that time, I wanted independence so bad. So I wanted the money. I wanted the popularity. I wanted to feel like that boss, that I didn't need a man, because men have let me down my entire life. I've had horrible relationships, including with my dad, constantly being used. Even though my dad was in my life, he was still using me. So I was so tired of being used, and I wanted to be wanted, finally. And I wanted myself. I was like, I'm enough for me. So all of the money and the fame and the places I got to travel to, the podcasts I went on, the people I met, I was like, the designer bags I had, I was like, I am untouchable. And power is so consuming. It is pure, just adrenaline. Like you seek it like a Red Bull skydiver, you want to jump off that plane as many times as you can. I would do that. Even though it's dangerous, I would do it and do it again and then do it again and do it again. I wanted that so bad. I remember feeling that so many times of just, I got to go harder. I need more, and
was it more fame and money? Like what was or was it more the feeling of control? Like what?
Feeling of control. That control is just like everything. Like even in my female scenes, I was like the man. Like I never was like, I was like the dominant one, like I wanted that control over anything and everybody I touched. And it felt so good. There's been times in my life where I wish I could suck myself out of a situation, and having that money and power, I could snap my fingers and it would be gone.
Wow.
That is how I felt.
What's an example of that? Like, what did that look like for you when you were kind of at this high point of having all of this money, increasing all of this popularity and fame? I think at one point you were one of, if not the top creator.
Yeah, top 0.01%.
Top point, what is it?
Top 0.01%. It's not even 1%.
0.01%. And you're making millions of dollars at this point. And like you said, traveling the world, like meeting very famous people, like just doing, very famous in addition to making all of this money. You had this experience of being able to kind of pull yourself out of a problem because of all of your fame and because of all of your money. What did that look like? So I traveled a lot, and there were so many times I traveled where I hated where I was because of the people who were there. And so money got me a plane ticket immediately. Like if I wanted to dip out of California and go travel to Thailand, I could do it in an instant. I could leave that night. I never had to be like, oh, I don't know if I can afford this, or no, it was, I want this. I have it now, so it's like that, no waiting for anything or anybody. Like I didn't want to rely on somebody other than my OnlyFans team to make me more money. It was like, that is your job. That is what I want you to do. And I have control over it, because if I stop making content, I stop making money. So I was like, I loved having that control over me being the best at what I was. So many people wanted to work with me. And I was like, no, like, I don't care how big you are. I'm very exclusive. And that power felt so good. I was just like, wow, like that's what I've always dreamed about, not being a caged bird. I traveled for months in Europe. I got to do whatever, bought whatever, met whoever I wanted, it felt. And I was just like feeding off of that. The money's great, but the power is something that like even with people with money don't always have.
So that powerful feeling of just being me and being a one of a kind me that nobody could duplicate that, or, use the same formula and be as successful as I was priceless to me.
So at what point, and all this time were you on marijuana? Was that a big part of it?
The whole time.
The whole time. Okay.
Yep.
And then if you stop the marijuana, like the chips in the armor started to, the chinks in the armor started to open.
There was like this time in New York where I had just traveled to New York and I had no weed on me. And I had just gone on like a big shopping spree. I came back to my hotel room, beautiful hotel room. I was like looking out the windows at the sunset between the buildings. I just sat on the floor and I was like looking out there. I had no weed on me. So I had been like clean for a day. And I felt so sad. Like crushing sad. Like it was like a tiny violin was going off in my head. And I was like, wow, I could just sob right now. But I didn't know what I was feeling. I was just like, man, I need something right now, So I went and drank a little bit. But it's like your mind and heart are connected. Your heart obviously is the one that feels so much, but it's just like once it all hits, like the decisions you've made, the things you've done and said, like that you can't take back. It's like a horrible feeling, and knowing what you're doing isn't like a good thing. You're not helping anybody. I'm providing pleasure for a couple seconds and then you're done, like that is what I'm providing. Nothing long-term, nothing spiritual, nothing, tangible. It's all like sand through your fingers. So once that like hits you, it's just so depleting. And like, I don't know, I was always so scared to be depressed. I was so scared of it because I knew that I couldn't work if I was depressed and I couldn't do the work that I wanted to do if I was depressed. So smoking constantly, being on Adderall a lot because they balanced each other out, but it was a crazy mix of just constantly going and going. I would work all night, streaming all the time. Like I wore myself thin because if I stopped working, I filled my time with like bow staffing and martial arts and boxing and gymnastics and weightlifting all in 1 week and work on top of that because like one down moment felt bad, because the weed eventually like you build up a tolerance to it. So you have to go onto something stronger, but I never wanted to take more drugs than that. So I had to keep myself very busy in moments. Otherwise it just hits you. And you're just alone. You realize I'm just like in this big house by myself. And it just sucks. It sucks so bad. So it's not even about having friends because friends in California are pretty horrible. In LA especially. But I never found that one friend that I was just like.
Not a true friend.
Yeah, never in that industry.
It was all kind of around you for convenience or for the money, the popularity.
We're justifying each other. Cool. Yeah. That's all it felt like. It was like I never connected to any girl and was like, yes, I love that person. We're best friends. Never in 5 years. And that was so strange to me because I'm like, I'm a nice person. Is there something wrong with me? Like, do people not want to hang out with me? But it wasn't even about that. It was like everybody's thinking about themselves. So how can you have a best friend if all you're thinking about is yourself? And I was the same way though, So how could I be a genuine friend when all I care about truly is myself?